Warning! The following video contains discussions of a movie that includes dark fantasy elements, Nazi propaganda, sexual content, and themes that may be distressing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The best way to motivate someone is showing them some archival footages, or just call them deadweight. Ralph Bakshi. I don't know how often I'm going to be talking about this guy. I talked about American Pop, that one average animated film with some good qualities here and there. I talked about Coonskin, that has a fun time making fun of black people, and as much as I want to give sympathy, I just don't feel like it. At this point, I somewhat get the gist of movies that are made by him. It's like Adam Sandler, but animation. But there is one aspect of Bakshi's career that I haven't talked about. His fantasy films, which is why I'm going to be talking about this today. Wizards, and we're not talking about that one Netflix show by DreamWorks. This animated post-apocalyptic film is the first fantasy film by Bakshi. Why? Well, he was generally interested in the genre. You really can't blame him. The movie was originally going to be a television series that was developed and pitched to CBS called T-Wit, but I guess that never happened. Bakshi did pitch War Wizards to 20th Century Fox in 1976, and it was greenlit. However, Bakshi was unable to complete the battle sequences with the budget Fox gave him. I mean, to be fair, the dude made Coonskin. Because of this, Bakshi finished the film by paying out of his own pocket and using rotoscoping for the unfinished battle sequences. That's gonna work out okay. With that, the movie made an appearance in theaters on February 9th, 1977 and made some kind of profit at the box office. But the fact that this movie got a limited release kind of bothers me. Look, I understand that Fox didn't want to take the risk, but still. While a lot of people hasn't talked about this movie, it was all over the place for me. YouTube, TikTok, Florida State University. So, funny story, last year I went on a tour to Florida State University, and while I was looking around, I saw frames from the movie. It's kind of crazy that some colleges just casually have this stuff lying around. Coincidence? I don't know. But how did I exactly know it was from Wizards? It was from a poster. It's just a guy riding on a weird looking animal. What does this got to do with Wizards? Why do you think I'm talking about this movie right now? To answer that certain question. The movie follows a battle between two wizards of opposing powers, one representing the forces of magic and the other representing the forces of technology. Practically an allegory of environmental destruction caused by unchecked technology, and also the potentially destructive powers of propaganda. You could say that this is a warning of that kind of stuff, but at the same time, who's gonna take it seriously nowadays? Especially that this was coming from Ralph Bakshi of all animated. What the heck? Hold on, I might need to do another research on this movie because I might be missing something here. Oh, I guess that's kind of interesting. I can understand why they would do all that. This came out in the 70s, a few decades after World War II, but you couldn't come up with another symbol? No? Okay. I could say the only interesting thing about this movie is the backstory behind all of this. A long time ago, the planet Earth has been devastated by a nuclear war, taking 2 million years for the radioactive clouds to allow sunlight in. The humans who survived the apocalypse has been transformed into mutants, while humanity's true ancestors, trolls, fairies, elves, and dwarves, resurfaced. Okay, two things. One, I'm surprised that humans managed to survive after millions of years, when they could have just moved on to another planet because Earth is clearly unsuitable for living. And two, if the fairy tale creatures resurface, where have they been all this time? Have they been underground? What made them go under? Everything has been great for the past 3,000 years of peace till Dahlia, Queen of Fairies, falls into a trance and gives birth to twins, because that's possible. The kind-hearted Avatar and his evil mutated brother, Black Wolf. Why did Black Wolf have to be a mutant? Look, I know movies got a movie and everything, but Dahlia is literally the Queen of Fairies, and yet they gotta make Black Wolf a mutant. So what, there'll be finally a balance between good and evil? Why couldn't Black Wolf be good as Avatar too? I don't know, it seems like total BS that he had to be born just to be evil. Also, you're telling me that all mutants have to be evil? Why couldn't some of them be good? Why am I giving sympathy to the bad guys? I don't know. Speaking of which, Black Wolf has an army and they look like bad news, alright, when in reality, they're really like the henchmen in a Disney movie.
There you go again, stepping on my lines, raining on my parade, costing me medals. Oh, damn! Ooh. They've killed Fritz! They've killed Fritz! Those horrible atrocity films were together!
Not only that, Black Wolf is restoring technology. Tanks, planes, machine guns, even going out of his way to make his own technology. And his biggest trump card of all, an old school projector and some good old propaganda footages, which, how did he manage to restore the footages that has been buried underground for millions of years? And then we have Avatar, who went from a kind-hearted person to a grumpy little gnome. While he doesn't have a big army, he does have a small group. Eleanor, Weehawk, and Peace. In other words, Black Wolf's Boba Fett, but good. But unlike Black Wolf, he uses magic, so he's too good for all those fancy little gadgets.
Oh yeah, one more thing. I'm glad you changed your last name, you son of a bitch.
Oh, snap! I didn't know wizards could strap up too! Hey, Avatar, we're still cool, right? But for the final battle of the movie, it does seem a little anticlimactic. Cause for a guy who brought back this amount of technology, you would think Black Wolf will strap up too, or have a bulletproof vest, or heck, have like a special gun he uses. No? Well, this is a Ralph Bakshi film, so it's honestly no surprise that the animation here is practically similar to Coonskin. But this time around, they use archival footages for propaganda stuff, and I guess general footages for backgrounds as well. The character designs are pretty good for a fantasy/sci-fi film, especially that Bakshi drew fantasy artwork since the 1950s. Despite their good points here and there are some flaws, as expected, with the biggest one being... I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I knew about these sequences long before I saw this movie, and I will admit, this doesn't look great. It feels off, rushed, like they didn't have the time to finish it properly. And the more I look at these sequences, the more I wonder about the production behind this movie. So when I did some research on what happened, I just feel kinda guilty. Especially that Fox refused to increase the budget, so they had to find other options, so they did. Yeah, it's not perfect, but what other options they had other than cutting the sequences out entirely? At the end of the day, they did what they had to do to make it work, even if the result ended up like this. After watching 3 Ralph Bakshi films, I thought I would get nothing from each of them, considering that I knew what to expect. But I can finally say that I like this movie. Yes, the movie is weird, especially that it came out in the 70s. But it's the kind of weird that I like. And it's a shame that people barely talk about this movie because it does have a lot of potential. I guess it wasn't enough to deserve a sequel apparently. Some say it's cancelled, some say it's on hold, we'll never know. I just feel like this movie deserves a remake, or at the very least a redo of the battle sequences for obvious reasons. Despite all that, I just like the overall lore of this movie. It really gives you a good explanation of why this happened. Heck, this might be my only favorite Ralph Bakshi film since the quality of his movies after this kinda go downhill. And if you're a person who loves watching these weird animated movies, Wizards might be for you. Man, time is moving so fast to a point that the holidays are near. And as much as I want to be excited for it, college has got me worked up. I try my best to have fun, it's just I have a huge workload and I try my hardest to get them done so I can have some fun. Work first, play later, that's a motto I always use. But for now, you know what, editor, do the thing.